So you think you want to retire early. Maybe you're frustrated with your job, or you've heard about other people who've retired early and they're vacationing, they're traveling, they have all the time in the world to do whatever they want. Just endless free time. And you're thinking how great that would be if you could achieve that, if you could stop working and live your best life. Well, today on Real Fi Talk, where we talk about the ups and downs of financial independence, I want to share with you some things to consider before you retire early. I'm Aaron. Let's get started. So, one of the benefits of retiring early is that you're going to have a lot of free time and potentially free time while you're younger. So, you're going to have your health more than likely, you're going to be energetic, you're going to experience all these things, and you're going to be able to do it at a relatively young age. Sounds great. I appreciate it. I understand it. The potential cons of that, though, are that you could be unstructured. If you don't have an idea what you're going to be doing with all that extra time, you might find that it's quite dissatisfying. The other challenge, too, is that if you did enjoy your work, and even if you didn't enjoy it, but you were good at it, and you liked achieving things, and you liked making money, all those things are good. And when that goes away, you might find that you've lost a little bit of your identity. The other thing that happens is that when you have that free time, if you have retired early, you're going to want to go travel, right? It's the number one thing that everyone says. If I could retire early, I could travel more. I could travel all around the world. I don't have time to do it now. Okay. Well, once you get done with that traveling, what are you going to do? What's the next step? When you're traveling, especially when you have a job and you go on vacation, the benefit of the vacation is to give you a break from that working experience. And the work, to some degree, is kind of like the salt, and the vacation is the sweet. And when you have that work experience that you're going back to, and you know you have to go back to, it makes the vacation so much sweeter. When you remove the salt, then the vacation starts to feel, well, maybe not like vacation anymore. Again, I'm not saying that using some of your prime years, your years where you have your most health, is a bad thing. So I think the pro of this is, look, you're going to have decades of healthy prime years for passions, hobbies, family, and just less work stress. So there is a benefit, but you need to just understand that there are pros and cons to this. So the other benefit of retiring early is that typically means that you're no longer dependent upon a paycheck or an employer. So all those days, weeks, months, years of working for that employer, all those meetings that you went to, all the stresses that you felt, all those good bosses and not so good bosses, all that goes away. You no longer are dependent upon anyone else. So there's a lot of pros of that, especially if you're in a financial position to support yourself. The danger of this, though, is also you're not going to have anyone to support you. No steady paycheck, no more 401k matching, no more company sponsored healthcare. That's all on you now. And those are big things. The other element here is that you're going to have this feeling of probably being more frugal, especially when you first retire. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But if you're retiring and it's not just you, and maybe you've got a spouse or dependents, and you're going around penny pinching and they're not aligned on that, you're going to have problems. The other thing that happens when you retire early is your expenses may change over time. So if you're in your early 30s and maybe you don't have any kids, and then all of a sudden kids come into the picture, get ready. Your expenses that you have mapped out are about ready to change. Kids are expensive. The other thing to worry about when you have to make your own income is, do I have enough money to live off of? What will happen with the economy? What will happen with inflation? There are a lot of worries that can creep into your head, and you really need to reconcile those before you step away from your job. I don't want to discourage you. There is a real sense of independence that comes from stepping away from work. And as long as you have your finances in order and you've really planned and thought about the future, you may be in good shape. So one of the risks of early retirement, and I mentioned it a little bit before, is that you have the potential to lose your identity, your purpose. You're no longer being recognized for your work contributions. That's a big deal. And that feeling of getting something done every day, of being productive, to some degree, that can go away. I think the other aspect here is this feeling of achieving something with a team. That goes away as well. You're not going to have all these coworkers around you or peers to accomplish these great things that you've been accomplishing for so many years. And even if you didn't like your job and you felt like it was pointless, I bet you still had one or two coworkers that you like to interact with. And when you retire, especially when you retire early, those social connections can break. They're pretty fragile. The pro here is that you're going to be able to have a lot of time on your hands and be able to redirect that time to causes, projects, hobbies, maybe new ideas that you want to explore for future businesses. One of the things that people talk about when they mention retiring early is this potential move to a lower cost location. This oftentimes on paper can expedite your ability to retire early. Maybe you live in a high cost of living location today, and you think that if you can move to a lower cost of living location, your money will go farther and you'll potentially be able to retire much earlier. Well, there are pros of that, and there's some cons. The risk that I see is that, number one, you're going to lose your social connection. If you've been in a location for 5-10 years and all of a sudden you're no longer there, you've just lost your social circle. If you're entering into a new time of life where you've got young children and you want to be surrounded by grandparents or just some sort of support, you might have stepped away from all of your support system. The other thing too is when you move to these lower cost of living locations, they may not have all the amenities that you're used to. So if you like going out to restaurants, if you like the arts, if you like music, if you like sports, wherever you're moving may not have those same things. And you've got to be prepared for that. The other thing about your location is the actual geography. If you're living in a higher cost location that, maybe you're living close to the water, a lake, an ocean, or you just love looking outside and seeing all the green trees around you or four seasons, those might have to go away if you're moving to a lower cost location, especially for those who are looking at moving abroad and going into maybe Southeast Asia, where yes, your dollar will go far, but it's hot and it's humid and it's like that all year round. The unpredictability of life can be exciting and scary. And if you're planning on retiring in your early 30s, you've got to think that your retirement might last 50, 60 years. Think about how many changes are going to happen in your life over that time. Not just kids, not just maybe getting married, but you also have to think about all the other people in your life that you are connected to and how their lives might interact with yours. You have elderly parents that maybe don't have some sort of long-term care insurance. You may have to look after them. Lastly, I think the other concern here is thinking about how you might have to re-enter the job force if you do retire early. Life is crazy. You never know how it's going to work out. You may need to go back. Who knows what's going to happen with the economy? You just never know. Maybe your kids are math geniuses and you budgeted for them to go to public colleges, but now all of a sudden they're going to go to private schools. You never know how life is going to work out, and it might mean that you're back and having to be employed again. And I can tell you, a lot of people talk about, well, I can always get a job at Starbucks or some other job. I think two challenges with that. One, that kind of puts down people who work at Starbucks. Those are not easy jobs. Being a barista is not an easy job, and you may not be up for it. And secondly, if you were making a really good living, it's a humbling experience to go back to getting paid minimum wage. And you've got to be ready for that. Again, the point of this video is not to try to convince you that retiring early is a bad thing. Right now, I'm financially independent, I'm not working, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do. But these are all the things in the back of my mind and things that I thought about before I left my job. And I'd encourage you to think about some of these as well. Thanks for listening to me. If you like this comment, please like and subscribe below and leave a comment. I'd love to get your thoughts on how you're thinking about early retirement. Have you already retired? Are you thinking about doing it? What concerns you? Thanks.